you're watching this video, you're probably asking yourself if you should go to music school, or you're thinking about what it means to go to music school. That's a great question to have. That's something to think about. Or maybe you know somebody that's thinking about going to music school. The first thing that you want to ask yourself is why? Why are you playing music in the first place? Are you training to be a professional? Do you want to teach? Do you want to play in an orchestra? You just want to join a band or be a songwriter? One of the first things that I got wrong was that I just thought that going to the school and training, getting the music degree was going to make me a professional musician. And that's kind of similar to what most people get when they believe that they're going to go to college, and because they went to college, they're going to have this dream job. Now, for me, I absolutely needed music school. It transformed my confidence, and at the time, when I was about 17, I was relatively successful playing in a bunch of punk rock bands and writing songs and making music and just putting on a show. And a lot of people at the time were like, why are you going to do that? You're already playing in these bands, and you could be the next thing, and all these. You get a lot of static around, a lot of people talking about their point of view about your music when you're a musician, especially when you're about 17, 18, 19, and you're performing. Well, I just felt like an imposter. I was making up these songs, and at the time I was a bass player, and I just played, some punk rock type stuff, songs about the government, and I wanted to make a difference with the music. But I did feel like an imposter. I didn't really know what I was playing. So growing up in Hawaii, they have something called just press. And what that means is I don't know what notes I'm playing. I don't know about keys or anything like that. I just press. I just find the notes on the guitar or the bass at the time for me. And I just press. And that's kind of similar to the way a lot of people learn nowadays when they're looking at a lot of tabs or they learn from their friends. You'll find a guitar player that can play an amazing guitar solo, but they learned it off a tab, so there's no context for that solo, and it's only that. Then they go to play with somebody else, and someone else is like, hey, play a G7 chord, and it's like a little bit uncomfortable because they don't know what a G7 chord is. When the beginner who's taking some lessons, fighting their way through some lessons, knows the G7 chord or something like that. But if you're going to go to music school, you want to consider why you're going. So the first thing is, most schools teach you either classical or they teach you jazz. They call it studio guitar, but it's mostly like a jazz focus. Classical music it's a little bit more standardized and easy, because first thing you got to realize is that even though you're going to music school and it's about your development, that school is a business. So that school has to keep their standards high enough to where there's a reputation. People go there for training, but the standards aren't so high that most people drop out. Music school is the second highest dropout major for colleges and universities. The first one is math, second highest is music, because most people don't realize how much practicing and how much dedication they're really going to have. It's not just let's have some fun with music all the time. Classical training is going to be very dedicated, and the standards are very high, because in a classical music setting, everyone is being trained to play in the orchestra. Now, you need impeccability. You need to play in tune. You need to be able to read super well for classical music, and you need to be able to play in the orchestra. And this is really, really good for some things and not so good for other things. But so if you're going to go for classical, keep in mind you're going to be trained to play impeccably. And this is easier in the classical world because people there's just basic standards that you can. It's either in time or it's in tune, and it is matching the tradition that has been passed down from Europe for the last 500 years, or it's not. And if it's not, then you're failing. This gets a little bit tricky when you start to train people in commercial music or pop music or jazz, modern music, but we'll get to that in a second. One of the things that is missing is in the classical world is improvisation. So people learn technique and theory. They learn history, and they learn very deep harmonic concepts. But it's more so that the conductor can just give them commands to bring the whole group together. This is not a bad thing. It's a perfect system almost perfect system for training people to play in an orchestra, which needs to play like one unit. It's a magical thing. Now, you get over to like a jazz training or a commercial training, it gets a little bit tricky because once again, they want people to pass the courses, but they don't want it to be so hard or so easy that nobody respects that course. So let me say that again. They want it to be a certain standard so their students can actually play. They get out of Berklee College of Music or Tulane or USC or one of these studio guitar, modern jazz, not studio guitar, but studio musician jazz programs. They need to have these skills so that they can actually work, but they also don't want everybody to flunk out, because to be a very accomplished, say like maybe a Ron Este or a Joe Pass level guitar player, the dedication is just as high or maybe even higher than a classical musician. But that being said, I've also worked with a lot of people who are fresh out of music school, and they would basically fall into a category that I would say can't play. They have all these theoretical concepts. They passed all the coursework, but they're 22. They have a bachelor's degree in music, and they haven't had enough time using keys or using their ears and using basically playing enough to know a certain style and to really deliver that style. I see it a lot. People get out of music school and they're like, I can play anything, because there's this confidence there. And we'll get to that confidence in a minute. There's this confidence like, hey, I learned all the scales and these teachers gave me this degree, but there's not this experience. Now, if you go to a blues club and you don't really know the tradition of blues, a music style that was developed by people who don't go to music school, the blues fans will let you know. If you're in a packed country bar and you play Friends in Low Places and you mess up, you're going to regret it. The fans will let you know. And there's a tendency to feel like you just got it once you get out of music school. And that's not necessarily the case, because each style is its own culture. But more on that later. So let's say that you want to go to music school and you want to be a studio musician, something that's kind of going by the wayside. Most people are recording at home, but you want to have those skills. Let's say that you want to be able to work for some famous artist as a piano player or a guitar player. There's a lot of theory and a lot of experience knowing how songs work and improvising. So that's what I would say is missing in the classical training, is improvisation. And what's missing in a lot of the jazz training or the commercial music training is impeccability. If I was leading a jazz ensemble and the bass player was rushing every time, I would let him know. And my personal music school experience was the teacher would just yell in our face. The professor didn't care if the students flunked out, or didn't seem to care. If you didn't show up and you didn't have it together, he would just yell in your face and tell you to go home. Why don't you come back when you have something to show me? It's painful to hear when you have decided that you're going to go to music school and your whole friends and family know that you have committed to become this trained musician. And that's powerful. If you're going to go to music school, you're telling yourself, your parents, everyone you know, that you're going to go become a professional musician. And that is significant in itself. That can drive you to get through the tough times, deal with the embarrassment, because if you're really going to become a great musician, there's going to be plenty of gigs where you goofed it. It was bad. And you get kind of desensitized. I don't know what the deal is nowadays, because, a lot of people, it's like almost not socially accepted to give people straight feedback because it might hurt their feelings. You don't want that. You want the straight feedback. Do as many gigs as you can. And if you go to music school, you're telling everybody that you're going to become a professional. You're going to be one of the elites that can either teach or play something musical in any style. And that's what it really comes down to, is you want to be in a program, whether you go to a university or you just sign up for an online program, that's going to bring you from point A to point B. My program, my black belt musician program, takes people from zero skills all the way to what I call a black belt. You're going to have seen everything that you need to see to move on and really play any style that you want to. Now, there's no way to be a master of every single style. However, you can train yourself to know enough about the way music works and know enough about your instrument and to play something musical in any style. That's what you want to get at, is I know enough about music and I know enough about all the different elements of music theory, if you want to call it that, to play something musical in any style. So, if you go to music school, you will learn to read music. If you don't already read music, you will learn to read music. That's the first thing. If that's not on your agenda, you just want to play rock and you just want to shred like Eddie Van Halen who didn't read music, maybe music school is not the place for you. But learning to read music is a crucial skill and it's a superpower. It will transform the way that you memorize songs, the way that you visualize, for lack of better words, the forms of songs, and it will be much easier to understand music theory because you have a visual representation of harmony. So you go to music school, you're going to learn to read music. You're going to learn theory and harmony very deeply. So if we're talking about a bachelor's degree at Berkeley or almost any university, you're gonna have 3 or 4 years of music theory, and you're going to understand harmony on a very advanced level. Like I said before, some people, they understand it, but to actually execute it on their instrument, they're going to need a lot more experience than just music school. I'm speaking generally. Most people go into music school and they don't understand the way chords work together. And that's why people generally play much better after music school. Not only is it the training, but it's the understanding of the way chords and harmony work together. So a person can really bring out the consonance and the dissonance and the anticipation of the harmony. We can talk more about that in another video. In music school, you're also going to get private one-on-one lessons. There's going to be somebody that's going to mentor you. This is invaluable. Make sure if you're going to go to music school, the person that's going to mentor you is somebody that you want to be mentored by. Luckily, my college professor, although I didn't know him that well, he taught me a lot about playing the Telecaster, Booker T and the MGs, Memphis music. Even though I was in a classical program, he had spent almost like another part of his life playing American music. So he was a child prodigy on the banjo, and he had done a bunch of gigs as a bass player and as a Telecaster player. So I was lucky. I got lucky there because that's really what ended up speaking to me for the rest of my life was I want to be this improviser on electric guitar, even though I was in this very specific Western art music, European art music program on the guitar. And some of the things about that impeccability in that classical music program carried over to when I became a electric guitar player, and I'm so thankful for it. I needed it. I needed personally to learn from the ground up. I needed to learn about Baroque music, continuo. I needed to learn to read music. I pretended that I knew how to read music when I went to the audition. I didn't, and my teacher found out on that first lesson, and it was a rough lesson. I thought he was going to kick me out. And he's like, "You better get it together." He didn't, and there was a few F-bombs in there. "You better learn fast," is what he said. And at the end of your music school training, you're going to have a college degree. That's the final thing. Well, maybe not the final thing, but you will, if you want that validation, or you're like, I need a degree because someday I maybe want to go to graduate school. And in my experience, it doesn't even really matter that much what your undergraduate degree is if you want to go on to graduate school in something else. However, if you want to go to graduate school in music, you probably want a bachelor's degree in music because the training is so specific. But once again, there's these two different degrees. There's a Bachelor of Music, which is very performance heavy. And then there's a BA, where you can get a BA, a Bachelor of Arts, where you can get one in ethnomusicology, where you just kind of know about lots of styles of music. Neither one is better or worse, but you want to choose the one that's the path for you. I was like, I don't know Bon Jovi from Beethoven. I just want to learn everything I freaking can. And so this course, or this was the University of California, this program accepted me. And that first lesson, the teacher's like, here you go, classical guitar, learning to read music. Of course, I had played guitar for about 6 years before that, so it was not completely new, but it was completely out of context, or not out of context, but just something I did not know about. Luckily, I loved music so much I didn't even care what type of music it was. I just wanted to learn it. And the theory courses really set me up personally for success, because I later became an improviser, super obsessed. Improvisation, understanding how harmony works, and spontaneously composing. If that's for you, start studying jazz, start studying American music, and look at a music school that specializes in improvisation. So, the last thing I'll say is, you want to put yourself in a program that's going to push you to be more than you are right now. A lot of people go to music school because they want to show off how good they are. They're showing, there's people in music school where they just want to, they're already so good, and they just want to let all the other kids know how good they are. It's like an ego thing for them. It's not really what music school's for. Music school, or conservatory, is for training. You want to put yourself in a program that causes you to be more than you are right now. You can ask yourself, what kind of person would I have to be the musician that I want to be? For me, that first year of weekly guitar lessons and practicing every day transformed me. I before that, coming from Hawaii, I was thinking that it was like some people can play and some people can't. It's not the case. That routine and dedication every day over time really started to transform not only my playing, but my confidence about being able to learn things. This is about the same time that I got into martial arts, like boxing and jiu-jitsu at the same time. And those repetitions and the training transformed my confidence about self-defense and about human relationships. And I started to see so many parallels there between the two. So you can train yourself to be anything that you want to be, but you want to look at a long timeline, and you want to look at your routine, because it starts to compound. Every day, you're working a little bit every day, you're practicing a little bit every day, or if it is martial arts, which is incredibly empowering, you're working a little every day. And so for me, I was 17 when I started the university, and after that first year, I'm 18, I go back home to my hometown of Hawaii, and everybody that I knew was blown away. They're like, how are you so good? It's like, go figure. A mentor and practicing every day completely transformed who I was. So by the time I got out of that school, I really got that I could learn anything, and so can you. One of the best students in that course, he was actually a graduate student in that course. He's probably one of the best guitar players I ever met. He's actually not with us anymore. His name's Greg Coleman, passed away. Incredible guitar player. He told me one time, he said, if you can learn this, you can learn anything. And I thought he meant anything as in in the world, which he was right. He was talking specifically about classical music. If you can learn this, you can learn anything. But he was right about everything, because anything that you really care about, it's going to break your heart. There's going to be perseverance needed to get to where you want to go. And you're going to become not a new person, someone else. And you don't even know what your potential is right now, because you're limited by what people say about you. You're what they think about you. You're limited by what you say about yourself. But routine and training yourself every day, and being part of a program that's designed to take you from here to here, or actually from here to the freaking moon, being on a program like that and committing yourself, I'm going to get through this, will transform everything about the way you play, and it will transform everything about the way you see the world, including yourself. From there, you can find your own way and you can make a career. So why are you going to music school? And what type of music do you want to play? And where are you going?